Hello, this is Dr. St. John, and I'm continuing with the sensitivity report in chapter 4. So we're looking at sensitivity analysis and the sensitivity report, the Blue Ridge model. We're continuing with that. I'm going to run it again. I've got the objective function 350 and 300, so everything's back to normal. Solve, and I'm going to choose sensitivity report. That's going to create my sensitivity report. It's going to create another tab down below, another worksheet. And it called it Sensitivity Report 1. So each time I run it, it'll just increment that 1 to 2 to 3. So we looked at this. This is the title up here. It's 3:12 a.m. Very early in the morning. But that's that's genetic, whether you're a late night person or an early morning person. Okay, constraints. This is where I left off. Under cell, I have D8, D9, D5. That's where the left-hand side of my constraints are located, the formulas. I supplied that to Solver. That's why Solver knows where they are. And as far as pumps, labor, and tubing with LHS, those are just labels. Solver pulled the labels that were near D8, D9, D10, and used them. And let's look at that. Pumps, labor, and tubing. You can see pumps, labor, and tubing in A8, not A9, and A10. It's associated. It's the closest labels that could be found associated with 200 with the left-hand side constraints. And Solver looks for a pattern. Of course, Solver also saw this LHS directly above, which is a label in cell D7, and just added LHS to each of those. And so that's where the name came from. Those are labels near my left-hand side constraints. If I didn't have any labels, then it'd be blank. So if they're not meaningful, or if Solver pulls the wrong ones, or if you want to change it, you can just put your cursor in there and change those pumps LHS. You can change it to something else more meaningful, no problem. But it's a name associated with the left-hand side with each of those constraints. So pumps, labor, tubing, those are the constraints. Final value. Those are the values that were in the left-hand side of the constraint for this particular solution. So those are the left-hand side values. You can see 200, 1566, and 2712. That's cell D8 to D10 in blue. So that's the left-hand side. And let me pop over here to constraint our right-hand side. It's 200, 1566, and 2880. So that's simply the right-hand side of the constraint, which I also gave Solver when I entered the constraints into Solver. Now, here comes the interesting stuff. Shadow price, 200. And we have 200 for shadow price under pumps, and we have 16.66666 and so on for shadow price under labor, and 0 for shadow price under tubing. Now this is very meaningful to me. 200 is the amount of additional profit for each additional pump that I get. So as a manager, if I'm working this model, I see my profit. I'm going to make 122 AquaSpa and 78 Hydrolux. I'm going to use I have 200 pumps available. I'm going to use 200 pumps. Well, what if I buy one more pump? What will that do to my final profit? Because I'm trying to maximize profit. Well, this tells me one more pump will increase my profit by $200. So let's see if that holds up here. Let's see. Profit is 66,100. So I'm expecting that if I change the right-hand side to 201, I get one additional pump. So I need to stay equal to or below 201. I'm expecting the profit to increase from 66,100 to 66,300. So let's change this to 1. Let's run it. And there it did. It changed to 66,300. So perfect. Now, let's go back here. we've got this allowable increase and allowable decrease on the other side. What that's telling me is that for each, that will hold true. I will get $200 additional profit for every additional pump I get up to 7. So as soon as I get 208 pumps, I don't know what'll happen. The profit will be different. It'll probably be less. Or I've got an allowable decrease of 26. So that means that I can decrease it by up to 26 pumps, and the shadow price is saying that the profit will decrease by 200. So let's run that and see. Let's see, what if I go to 199? I would expect that earlier profit was 66,100, so it should go down by $200 to 59,900. Let's solve it. Solve. 65,900. So I think I said the wrong number earlier, but it decreased by $200 because earlier it was 66,100. Let's change it back to 200, and you can see indeed the decrease was $200 too. So I'm reading this shadow price, and allowable increase 7, allowable decrease 26. So this tells me what changes, how sensitive my model is to change. In this case, how sensitive are the coefficients, the constraint coefficients. If I decrease the number of pumps, each one I decrease it by will reduce my profits by $200, and each additional pump I get will increase it by $200, up to an allowable increase of 7 pumps or an allowable decrease of 26. As soon as I go over 7, I get 8 pumps, or I reduce the amount by more than 26 pumps, I don't know what'll happen. It'll be different. So I would have to run it to find out. I can't tell from this report, but I can tell how sensitive it is. So it looks like it's fairly sensitive to an increase, over 7, and then things all change, but it's less sensitive on a decreasing. With labor, each additional hour, keep in mind, pumps were in units of pumps, labor is in hours. So each additional hour of labor I get, I will increase profit by $16.66 up to 234 hours. It'll hold for that many hours. And I can decrease it by 126 hours. So this tells me, I don't know if I'm paying, it depends on how much I'm paying in labor, but if I'm paying $10 in labor, if I have the opportunity to get more labor, I would want to, depending up to 234. It's a little more sensitive if I go below 126. Tubing has a shadow price of 0. What that tells me is I can get as many additional feet as I want. So, and it won't change the profit at all. So originally, if you look at the right-hand side, I had 2,880 feet of tubing, and for this solution, I only used 2,712. So I didn't even use all the tubing I had, so I can get infinity tubing. That's what this 1E plus 30 represents, is basically infinity. I can increase my supply of tubing, fill the whole shop with extra tubing, and I will not be able to make one single more hot tub because I didn't even use what I had to begin with anyway. So what good is it going to do? It will not increase my profit at all. Now, I can reduce the amount of tubing I have by 168 without changing my profit at all. Profit will remain zero. The change in profit will remain 0 until I go below 168 feet of tubing, and then it starts changing. So again, it's telling me how sensitive my coefficients and the constraints are, and it's telling me exactly how. Some are more sensitive to increases, less sensitive to decreases, and so on. So that's how you read the sensitivity report and interpret it, and I hope that helps.